Here's a snapshot of Business Standard's views of the week. September saw the lowest unemployment in 18 months, but the labor participation rate has been falling systematically since 2016-17, writes Mahesh Vyas in his weekly column in Business Standard. From a growth perspective, it is important that a good proportion of the working age population is willing to work, and then a good proportion of them actually gets employed, he writes. For India, a mere increase in employment is not an adequate target. It needs to rise at least in proportion to the rising population. The best way to deal with this is to make an acceptable employment rate as a policy target, is what he recommends. After its run-in with Google, when Paytm was banned from Google Play Store for some time, Paytm launched its own mini app store this week. In a column for Business Standard, Nivedita Mukherjee recalls how Paytm first rode the demonetization wave to increase its user base and now seems to be riding the Atmanirbhar Bharat bandwagon as it takes on Google. Electric vehicles are getting better and better, and they are likely to transform the auto sector in the coming decade. Prosenjit Datta underlines that the automobile sector has been a rare success story for Indian manufacturing and cautions the government against tearing away existing auto investors in the quest for greener vehicles. If global automakers already present in India start losing faith in the government's policies, it is unlikely that they will invest in building an EV ecosystem here, he argues. In post-pandemic India, many things in the economy have gone wrong. But what has gone right for the government is the oil sector, where global crude prices have softened, and that enables the Modi government to raise duties on fuel being sold in the country. In his column, A.K. Bhattacharya writes that this is likely to fetch an annual additional revenue of Rs 39,000 crore for the government this financial year, quite an oil bonanza. If crude oil prices remain at this level for the next few months, the revenue shock for the government could be less severe, thanks to the increase in oil levies imposed in March and May, he writes. The news cycle seems to be turning positive after 7 months, writes K. Nyland in his weekly ruminations in Business Standard. New COVID-19 infections seems to be slowing down, while economic activity seems to be picking up. All this at a time when the Modi government seems to be making a second push on the economy front to counter all the ill effects of the pandemic. There will be uncertainty about outcomes, given that success depends on interlocking process changes more than on one-time announcements. But one must hope for the best, he writes. An ugly war has broken out among TV news channels over alleged manipulation of TRP numbers by some. This has prompted Shekhar Gupta to write on the state of news media these days. In his weekly column for Business Standard, National Interest, he writes that the media seems to have pushed the self-respect button. We then have this unfortunate situation where everybody from the Supreme Court to the central government wants to regulate the media, he says. With self-regulation having failed and media in disarray, it seems to be an ideal situation for the establishment to step in, he argues. Business Standard editorial views this week also spoke about issues related to the economy and the country. One of them was about the government's legislative moves regarding the labour market. One of the changes that has attracted criticism is the move on fixed-term contract jobs. In its editorial, Business Standard argues that the government should stay the course when it comes to these changes and not give in to criticism. According to news reports, there was high drama at the latest GST Council meeting, which ended on an inconclusive note. In its editorial on October 6th, Business Standard argued that this was not a good sign. The editorial says that while it is true that the union government faces a formidable fiscal hole, and it is also logical to ask why states should not pay for this. But it reminds the union government that only the centre can issue its own currency. The final solution to the GST compensation quandary must reflect its built-in asymmetry, it says. Indian GDP contracted by 24% in the first quarter of this financial year, but recent numbers indicate a modicum of economic recovery. Business Standard editorial on October 6 cautions against rosy interpretations of this recent data. While the economic activity is certainly improving from the lows witnessed during the near complete shutdown of the economy, it still has a long way to go, says the editorial.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.